Mr. Tini Philip. He is a recognized thought leader on helping entrepreneurs build and implement significant and lasting competitive edges in India and the GCC, and has gained his unique expertise and experience from his work with more than 50 different industries over the last 2 decades. He is an electronics and communications engineer from the University of Kerala, who then went to work for a leading Indian consumer electronics group. After a 1-year stint in production, he went on to obtain his postgraduate diploma in management (PGDM) from the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow, and started his management consulting career in 1992 with the Management Consulting Division of Arthur Andersen in Mumbai. After a 2-year stint with Arthur Andersen, he started his own business advisory practice in 1994. He also writes a regular column for entrepreneurs called The Contrarian Consultant in Kerala's leading business magazine Dhanam, where he shares insights gained from his business advisory work. Let's welcome Mr. Tini Philip, the founder and CEO of Results Consulting Group, to deliver his address on contrarian approach to business.
The topic I'll be taking today is called the contrarian approach to business. If you notice the slide, the word crazy is also written there. Some people consider this approach to be crazy and some people consider it to be contrarian. So I leave it to you to judge at the end of this presentation what your view on the whole issue is. I had published an article in Dhanam magazine in February 2017, which is replicated in your souvenir, which I think you will be getting in the evening. In that article, which was, the country was suffering from severe recessionary trends after the Noteband issue. Okay, so I had described in that article 2 types of entrepreneurs in the market. There were very few entrepreneurs who were doing and thriving and doing quite well in the recessionary condition at that time, which was February, March. And there was a large number, most of the entrepreneurs in India and in Kerala particularly, were actually suffering. So in that article I described the characteristics or the differences between the decisions taken by these 2 types of entrepreneurs earlier on in their entrepreneurship life, which enabled them, the few entrepreneurs, to become very successful in spite of recessionary conditions. What I had termed it was, that we have a contrarian entrepreneur and what I call a popular entrepreneur. The contrarian entrepreneurs follow a contrarian approach to running the business, whereas the popular approach entrepreneur follows what is commonly done by everyone. In my talk today, I will try to explain the fundamentals of this contrarian approach. Now, as the person who introduced me, the Vice President, had said, I write a column in Dhanam magazine which is specifically called The Contrarian Consultant. The reason that I named it that way when Kurian Abraham asked me to write a column, he asked me first, I think 2012, I told him that nobody would read what I write because I don't write what is popular. So after a year, he again asked me to, why don't you write? At least some people would read. Okay. So I said, fine. So even today, I don't believe, many people read my column. I think hardly 5 or 10% people probably glance through it. Because a couple of things. One is I don't write very popular things. And number 2 is most of my articles contain some figures and facts and tables and profit and loss statements and all that. So, you've got to spend some effort to read my articles and understand what it is. So, I hope that I can explain the fundamentals of this contrarian approach, and it's a vast topic, but given the time limitations, I'll try to focus and give you the nutshell. So, the topic today is to try and cover in detail the fundamentals of this contrarian approach to business, and the nutshell. So, obviously, there's a lot to discuss. Probably you will ask me questions about it. So, what does contrarian mean? So, one version of the meaning is rejecting popular opinion and going against current practice. As you can see from the slide, the guy in red is the contrarian and everyone else is the popular approach. So, it is very difficult to follow a contrarian approach in business, because the kind of pressure that you come under to change your ways is immense. All your peers, your staff, your advisors, your chartered accountants, the media, everyone tells you that you're doing the wrong thing, and they tell you to change and go for the popular approach. And this is especially worse in boom times. The kind of pressure a contrarian entrepreneur experiences in boom time is unbelievable. Okay. In recession times, the pressure is very low, because today most people have realized that the popular approach is not very successful in recession times. But the pressure that happens in boom times is very high. So why do contrarian entrepreneurs who are consistently following this approach manage to keep the path? There are two basic reasons for that. One is they have understood the fundamentals of the contrarian approach. Okay, they know that there is a solid base to this entire approach, and they have spent time to understand it. And the second is they have been getting consistently outstanding results for the years that they've been using this approach. Now, they do very well in recession, and they do equally well in boom times, whereas their friends who follow the popular approach go through a boom-bust cycle. There are two basic assumptions that drive the contrarian approach to business. The first is that recessions happen. I don't think anyone will argue with me on this point. Recessions will happen, and recessions will continue to happen. The funny part is, or the amazing part is, that if you look at the kind of decisions that you see some entrepreneurs taking during boom time, it looks as if they believe that a recession will never happen to them in future. So most of the points related in in the article that you will see in the souvenir is related to decisions which enable an entrepreneur to avoid problems in recession. So in that, I've highlighted two types of entrepreneurs, or two entrepreneurs: one who follows a popular approach, one who follows the contrarian approach. And I have highlighted certain decisions where both of them take diametrically opposite decisions. So because of lack of time, I'll focus only on two areas in this. The rest you can read the article once you get your souvenir. The two areas, the main decision areas that an entrepreneur has to be careful about is things like market share, resources, bank loans, value chain, debtors, and the whole host of other things, but these are the ones that I have mentioned in the articles. So I'll take one or two of them for illustration. One very important question for an entrepreneur once he starts his business is, how much market share should I take in a particular market segment? Now, by the popular approach, this is a foolish question, because the answer is very obvious: maximum market share. So let us explore that, the answer, maximum market share. I mean, you talk to anyone, it's always maximum market share. So I don't know what maximum market share is, so I'll just assume that maximum market share is 50% of a particular market segment. So let's take an entrepreneur who, and this happens during boom times, because in boom times you have a shortage of supply, so you're able to take up a lot of market share. So let's say in boom time, a particular entrepreneur who is following the popular approach, who follows this advice, manages to achieve 50% market share in a particular market segment. So now you have a market of 100, and this entrepreneur is supplying 50 or selling 50 in that market. So now let's go to this entrepreneur who's crazy, who's limited his market share to 10%. Okay, so his market is 100. He's selling 10, recession hits him, market goes to 70, he naturally goes to 7. Same issue, his profitability drops. In order to maintain profitability, he has to increase his sale. The first option is to increase his sale from 7 to 10. Again, he realizes, as the previous entrepreneur, that the margins are low, so increasing by 3 is not good enough. So as we told the other entrepreneur, let us double the share or the extra sale. So instead of 3 extra, let him try for 6. Now this 6 is out of how much? Is the next question. So 77. The balance is 63. So this entrepreneur is expected to grab 6% or 6 units from 63 units. This means very clearly that the second principle of modern management theory, that maximizing efficiency in all functions, is not true or is not correct. If efficiency increase in a particular function does not always create profit improvement for the company. So once you understand that, now let's go into a little more detail to figure out, so what kind of correction? We know now that we should not have efficiency in every single department. It's not the right way to work. So what is the right way to work? So, being of a more scientific mind, what we have to think about is, let me see if I can make one resource or one function work at 100%. What does it take to make one resource or one function work at 100% efficiency? So we know an organization is a set of dependent and linked processes that work together to make profit. Okay, very simple. Forget all the jargon. The simplest type of organization is a manufacturing line, straight line. So if you look at the example on the it's 5 resources working in sequence to produce a particular product. Now we are all efficiency nuts, so we have to balance the plant. You talk to any production guy and he'll say, balanced plant is the holy grail of manufacturing. And I tell them that the moment you balance the plant, your company will close down. So they always laugh, but they never understand what I'm trying to say. So hopefully you will understand after this. So I balance the plant. So let's say 10 units per hour production capacity for every resource 1 to 5. And it's all sequential. Resource 1 does something, then 2, 3, 4, 5, and the product is made. Now my objective is to ensure that resource 5 is operated at 100% efficiency. I want to make sure that resource 5 operates at 100% efficiency. So what is required to make resource 5 operate at 100% efficiency? Now we are operating in the real world where things go wrong. Okay? So in a manufacturing plant, machines break down, materials are late, people are absent, and so on and so forth. Current will go in Kerala particularly. Okay? So things happen. So what happens when things happen to resource 1 to 4? What happens to resource 5? Obviously resource 5 goes idle. So that is very bad. We are supposed to be running resource 5 at 100% efficiency. That's the objective we want to do. So how do we solve this problem? So we sit around and debate and we come up with this solution. So somebody says that if you put some material before resource 5, anytime resource 1 to 4 goes down, you can source from the material and run resource 5. No problem. Great. Now, so we have a disruption in one of the resource 1 to 4. The resource 5 pulls material from the material store and the material store goes down. Then the machine restarts and the resource level, the material level stays the same because the capacity is the same. We are pulling at 10 units an hour, we are supplying at 10 units an hour. So the store of material does not go up. After a couple of more disruptions, the store of material goes back to 0. Again, our machine is now idle. So material alone does not solve the problem.